Welcome back to Binge Worthy Stories. Today's story is emotional and surprising.
At 7:12 a.m., I picked up my husband's phone and a woman's voice purred. "You left your navy blue Calvin Kleins here again. Last night was unforgettable." My name is Anna Sheldon. I'm 38. By the end of that call, I already knew two things: the color of his underwear, and that my marriage was over. I just wasn't ready to say that last part out loud yet. What that woman didn't know was I used to audit fraud for a living. I don't panic when I find a discrepancy. I collect it. There was a second problem waiting behind that phone call, one that had nothing to do with hotel sheets. We'll come back to that. It started with a whisper and ended with federal agents walking into a boardroom. By the end of this, you'll know the name on a $325,000 watch receipt, the password that cracked my husband's laptop, and the exact recording that took him down in front of the boardroom full of people who used to respect him. Marcus walked into the kitchen still buttoning his shirt. He kissed my cheek like nothing had happened. "Wrong number," he said, nodding at the phone in my hand. "Some robocall thing." I said nothing. I poured his coffee. I didn't scream. I refilled his coffee. He reached for the phone. Before he took it, I caught the caller ID. Just a name. Vanessa. "Big day," he said, checking one of his 6 identical black watches. "Kestrel's naming a new CFO today. Wish me luck." "Who's Vanessa?" I said before he reached the door. He stopped with his hand on the knob. "Someone from the deal team." "Why?" "No reason," I said. "Curious." "You're acting strange," he said, and smiled the smile he uses on clients. Then he was gone. I wished him luck on his way out. Then I watched him swipe the call log clean before he left the house. I waited 10 minutes after his car pulled out. Then I walked into his home office. His laptop was locked. His desk drawer wasn't. Inside, it was an Amex envelope I'd never seen before, tucked under old tax folders. One line on the statement stopped me. A boutique on Magnolia Crescent. $325,000. $1 purchase, 1 day, no explanation. Gift note was stapled to the back of the receipt. Delivered to V. Kingsley with compliments. No first name, just an initial and a surname I'd never heard before. I heard the garage door groan outside. I shoved the envelope back exactly where it had been and walked out with my hands shaking. It wasn't him. He'd forgotten his badge. He grabbed it off the counter and left again without looking at me twice. The next morning, Marcus drove Oliver to school himself, something he hadn't done in months. "Family day," he said, buckling Oliver's seatbelt. "Just felt like it." I got in the front seat and watched him check his mirrors twice before pulling out. "Everything okay with work?" I asked, keeping my voice light for Oliver's sake. "Great," Marcus said. "Best quarter of my career." "Funny," I said. "You seemed pretty rattled by a wrong number yesterday." His knuckles went white on the wheel. In the back seat, Oliver was too busy with his tablet to notice. Marcus wasn't. "Drop it, Anna," he said quietly, still smiling for the mirror. Not in front of him. That was the first time I saw it. Not guilt, fear of being caught. I dropped Oliver at the gate, kissed his head, and told him to have a good day. Marcus didn't say another word until we were home. 2 days later, I sat across from her. Vanessa Kingsley slid into the booth at a cafe in Oakmere wearing a diamond-crusted Patek Philippe Nautilus that caught every light in the room. "Marcus talks about you all the time," she said. "You're so lucky. He's completely loyal." I smiled at her over my coffee. "He really is," I said. I wasn't looking at her face. I was looking at her wrist. I'd priced a watch exactly like that one 8 months ago, the week I first noticed money missing from an account I wasn't supposed to know about. Now it sat on the wrist of a stranger telling me how loyal my husband was. "That's beautiful," I said, nodding at it. "New." "A gift," she said and looked away first. "From your husband?" I asked. "From someone who appreciates good work," she said and laughed a little too fast. I let the silence sit there. She filled it herself. "Marcus mentions you're so understanding," she said. "About his hours, his travel, not every wife would be." "I try to be understanding," I said. "I'm also very good at math." Her smile stayed exactly where it was, but her hand moved to cover the watch. And what I found in his home office the next night, I wasn't ready for. Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss the ending, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. I didn't confront her there. I finished my coffee. I told her it was lovely to meet her, and I meant every word because now I had a face to match the receipt. That night, I put the Amex statement on the kitchen table in front of Marcus. "Explain this," I said. He barely glanced down. "Business gift. Client relations. For $325,000. "You wouldn't understand the account," he said. "It's complicated." "Try me," I said. "I built audit trails for a living." He stood up so fast his chair hit the floor. "It was a wrong number, Anna. Drop it." "I met her," I said. 2 days ago, she was wearing the watch." Something moved behind his eyes for 1 second, then it was gone. "You're being paranoid," he said and walked out of the kitchen. I didn't follow him. I checked on Oliver first. He was asleep, one sneaker still on, homework half graded on his desk. I pulled the blanket over him and turned off his lamp. Then I went back downstairs and opened my laptop. I found Marcus in the living room an hour later, drink in hand, staring at nothing. "You went through my things," he said. It wasn't a question. "You lied to my face twice today," I said. He set the glass down harder than he needed to. "Careful, Anna, you have no idea what you're circling." "Then tell me," I said. He didn't answer. He just looked at me the way you look at someone you've already decided to erase. "Go to bed," he said. "This conversation is over." "It's not," I said. "It's just over for tonight." He picked the glass back up. His hand wasn't steady anymore. "You'll lose everything if you keep pushing this," he said. "The house, Oliver's school, all of it goes if you make me the villain." I stood in the doorway and let that land. He just threatened to take my son over a woman's wristwatch. "Noted," I said, and went upstairs. I didn't sleep. I lay there running numbers instead of counting sheep. A watch, an envelope, a woman who wouldn't hold my eyes. I'd spent 6 years finding other people's fraud for a living. I knew exactly what a paper trail looked like when someone was trying to hide it. Around 2 a.m., I opened a blank document and typed one line: "Watch, $325,000, Magnolia Crescent." Underneath it I typed, "Vanessa Kingsley." I saved the file under a name Marcus would never think to search. Then I closed the laptop and set my alarm for 6. Marcus thought the fight ended when he walked out of that kitchen. He had no idea I'd already started a file with his name on it, and that I wasn't planning to close it quietly. The next night, Marcus was asleep by midnight. I waited until his breathing went slow, and even then I got up. His laptop sat open on the desk in his office, locked screen glowing. I'd seen Vanessa's birthday on a caption under one of her photos weeks ago, back when I was still telling myself I was being paranoid for nothing. I typed it in, added the word success. The screen unlocked on the second try. My hands were shaking, but I didn't stop. The first thing I saw was a pinned chat. Contact name, VIP investor. I opened it anyway. The messages went back 4 months. Wire authorizations, routing numbers, a line from Vanessa that stopped my breath. Consulting budget absorbs it clean. No one at Kestrel reads past page 2. I heard the bed creak upstairs. I froze with my hand on the mouse, counting seconds instead of breathing. The house stayed quiet. I kept going. There was a folder labeled Project Zenith. I clicked it open. Spreadsheet after spreadsheet, all titled the same way, Cash Flow Shadow 2028. Row after row of transfers, $32 million total, routed through 2 names I'd never heard before. Aurelian Capital Solutions, Fairmont Ventures. Neither one showed up in any client directory Kestrel had ever sent home with him. I knew because I used to build those directories myself. I plugged in a flash drive and copied every file. The progress bar felt like it took an hour. Footsteps on the stairs. I yanked the drive out before the transfer finished and shoved my chair back from the desk. Marcus stood in the doorway in his boxers, blinking at me. "What are you doing in here?" "Couldn't sleep," I said. "I was looking for a phone charger." He crossed the room and closed his laptop hard. "This office is mine, Anna. Stay out of it." "Since when do you lock me out of rooms in my own house?" "Since you started going through my things," he said. "Twice now." I held his stare, then stopped giving me reasons to. He didn't answer that. He picked up the laptop and carried it to his side of the bed, like a man guarding a bag of cash. I went back to bed and lay there with the flash drive under my pillow, $32 million pressed against my ear. Marcus brought it up himself at dinner the next night, like nothing between us had happened. "Kestrel's doing a big anniversary gala in 3 weeks," he said, cutting his steak. Harold Kingsley's 25th. Whole board's invited. You'll need a dress. Sounds important, I said. It is, Marcus said. CFO announcements happening that night too. I want you there, smiling on my arm. Of course, I said. Wouldn't miss it. He reached across the table and squeezed my hand, the same hand that had shoved his chair over 2 nights earlier. That's my wife, he said. I smiled back at him and didn't say a word about the flash drive sitting in my sock drawer upstairs. By morning, I had a name to go with the messages. Harold Kingsley, Vanessa's husband, and I found out with one search, a managing partner who sat 2 seats down from Marcus on Kestrel's board. Vanessa wasn't just the other woman. She was married to the man who could end my husband's career with one phone call. I almost didn't make it call. Using a stranger's husband as a weapon felt like a line I hadn't crossed before. I sat with my phone in my hand for 10 minutes before I dialed his office. His assistant told me Mr. Kingsley was flying out of JFK that afternoon for a medical checkup. That was all I needed. I found him in the Centurion Lounge, reading glasses low on his nose, a glass of water untouched beside him. Mr. Kingsley, I said. I'm Anna Sheldon. My husband works for you. He looked up, polite but guarded. Should I know that name? You will, I said, and sat down across from him without waiting for an invitation. I opened my laptop and turned the screen toward him. Wire authorizations, the pinned chat, Vanessa's name on every 3rd line. His face didn't move for a second, then it did. Where did you get this? He said. It wasn't a question anymore. It was a demand. Your wife's phone number is saved in my husband's contacts as VIP investor, I said. That's not a coincidence. That's a system. He set his glasses down on the table, slow and deliberate. Say that again. I turned the laptop another inch toward him and pointed at a row. $32 million, Mr. Kingsley, routed through 2 shell companies. Your wife authorized 6 of these transfers herself. He read the screen for a long moment. When he looked up, something in his face had gone cold and still. My wife told me she was consulting for Kestrel 3 days a week, he said. I paid for the car service myself. She's not consulting, I said. She's stealing. And she's doing it with my husband. He didn't flinch at that part. He'd already guessed it, I could tell, the way his jaw set before I even finished the sentence. What do you want from me? He said. An alliance, I said. You have access Kestrel's board will listen to. I have every file that proves what they did. You could take this to the police right now, he said. Why come to me first? Because a wife with a laptop gets called hysterical, I said. A managing partner with the same evidence gets an emergency board meeting. He didn't argue with that. He picked his glasses back up and studied the screen again, slower this time, like he was hoping the numbers might change on a second read. 6 transfers, he said quietly. 6 times she looked me in the eye and told me she was in a meeting. There are 14 more behind that one, I said. I only showed you the ones with her name attached. He closed his eyes for a second. When he opened them, his voice had gone flat and businesslike, the sound of a man deciding something. He was quiet long enough that I thought he'd walk away and leave me sitting there with a laptop full of evidence and no one to hand it to. There's a gala in 3 weeks, he said finally. My 25th anniversary. Vanessa's been planning the seating chart for a month. I know, I said. Marcus mentioned it like it was the event of the year. It will be, Harold said, and for the first time something sharp moved behind his eyes. Bring everything you have. I'll make sure the right people are in that room. I closed the laptop. My hands had finally stopped shaking. One more thing, he said, standing to board his flight. Don't tell Marcus you found me. Let him walk into that ballroom thinking he's still winning. I watched him disappear through the gate. And for the first time since that phone call at 7:12 a.m., I didn't feel like the only person in this fighting alone. Back home, I hid the flash drive inside a tampon box in the bathroom cabinet, the one place I knew Marcus would never look. I had 3 weeks to build a case strong enough to end 2 careers in one night. Marcus texted me from the office that afternoon, dress shopping this weekend, something red. Harold likes red. I stared at that message for a full minute. He had no idea whose side Harold was already on. I texted back one word. Perfect. I had no idea Marcus was already planning something of his own. Marcus picked the dress himself. He held up a crimson silk satin gown against the mannequin and turned to me, grinning like he'd solved something. This one, red. Harold likes red, I said, repeating his own text back to him. Exactly, he said, not catching the edge in my voice. Big night, big impression. I tried it on. In the mirror, I looked like a woman about to walk into a war wearing the enemy's favorite color. Marcus paid for it in cash. $6,000 folded out of an envelope I recognized from his desk drawer. Business account, he said, before I even asked. Don't worry about it. I didn't argue. I already knew exactly which account that money came from. You're quiet today, he said, watching me in the dressing room mirror. Big week, I said. New title for you, new dress for me, lot to think about. Nothing to think about, he said. I've got this handled. I'm sure you do, I said, and let him believe he meant the promotion. The night of the gala, the ballroom at Kestrel's headquarters was lit gold, string quartet in the corner, 40 round tables set with name cards. Vanessa arrived in a white tailored blazer dress that made every head in the room turn, the Patek Philippe still on her wrist like a trophy. She found me by the bar before Marcus did. You look stunning, she said, eyes sweeping my dress. Crimson, bold choice for a wife. I like standing out, I said. So do I, Vanessa said. She leaned closer, voice dropping under the music. Marcus said you've been asking a lot of questions lately. I like knowing things, I said. Old habit. I used to audit for a living. Something flickered across her face, gone almost before I caught it. Did you? She said. Well, marriage isn't a balance sheet. No, I said. It's worse. A balance sheet always tells the truth eventually. She laughed like I'd made a joke, but her hand tightened around her glass. Enjoy the party, Anna, she said, and drifted off toward the dance floor before I could answer. Marcus appeared 20 minutes later with 2 champagne glasses. He handed me one without looking at me, already scanning the room. Big announcement coming, he said. CFO. I've wanted this for 3 years. You've earned it, I said, and watched him drink like a man who believed that. An hour in, I lost sight of him. I found Vanessa gone too. I followed a service hallway toward a side door marked balcony staff only, and I heard his voice before I saw them. I opened my phone's recorder and pushed the door open 2 inches. Once the promotion clears, we move faster, Marcus was saying. Bigger transfers, harder to flag. The Highland Park account's already open, Vanessa said. 2.4 million goes out the week after the board vote. No one at Kestrel reads past page 2, Marcus said, and laughed, the exact words I'd read in his laptop weeks ago. I held the phone steady and let it run. My hands didn't shake this time. Harold trusts you completely, Vanessa said. It's almost sad. Harold trusts numbers, Marcus said. I give him numbers that add up. That's the whole job. And after the promotion, Vanessa asked, we keep doing this for how long? Until it's not worth the risk anymore, Marcus said. Then we disappear. Both of us, somewhere with no extradition treaty and good weather. I pressed my thumb harder against the record button, like that could make the phone hear better. What about her? Vanessa said. Your wife. She's been asking questions. She's harmless, Marcus said. She refills my coffee and calls it a marriage. That one landed harder than anything else that night. I kept the phone recording anyway. A waiter pushed through the hallway behind me with a tray of glasses, and the door swung wider than I meant it to. Marcus's head turned toward the noise. I stepped back into the shadow of a service cart just before his eyes reached the gap. Someone's out there, he said. Probably staff, Vanessa said. Relax, you're about to be CFO. I didn't wait to hear more. I backed down the hallway and slipped into the ballroom through a different door, heart slamming against the crimson silk. I found a quiet corner near the coat check and uploaded the recording to a cloud folder before my hands could shake it loose. I sent Harold one line. It's done. 2.4 million, Highland Park, his exact words on tape. 3 tables away, Harold Kingsley raised his champagne glass an inch in my direction. No smile, just a nod. I made myself walk, not run, back through the ballroom, past 40 tables of people who had no idea what I'd just heard. Marcus found me again near the dessert table, flushed and pleased with himself. There you are, he said. Where'd you disappear to? Powder room, I said. This dress isn't exactly built for hiding. He laughed and pulled me toward the dance floor like nothing in the world was wrong. After tonight, he said, spinning me once, everything changes. New title, new account, new everything. I can't wait, I said, and smiled the way I'd been smiling all night, the smile that cost me nothing and told him everything he wanted to hear. Over his shoulder, I watched Vanessa return to the ballroom alone, adjusting her blazer, scanning the crowd like she was counting who'd noticed she was gone. Her eyes landed on me for 1 second too long. She lifted her glass toward me across the room, the same gesture Harold had made minutes earlier, but hers had teeth in it. To new beginnings, she mouthed, loud enough that I could read her lips. I lifted mine back. To new beginnings, I said out loud, and Marcus never noticed the two women toasting each other over his head like duelists. We got home a little after midnight. Marcus threw his jacket over a chair and poured himself a scotch, still riding the high of a room full of people who thought he was untouchable. Best night of my life, he said. You were perfect tonight. Really. Thank you. I try, I said, hanging the crimson gown in the closet like it hadn't just recorded a confession. He pulled me close, smelling like champagne and someone else's perfume. Tomorrow changes everything, he said. CFO, new house maybe, somewhere even better than Auburn. Can't wait, I said, and let him kiss my forehead like the good wife he still thought I was. He fell asleep within minutes. I lay awake beside him, replaying Vanessa's voice in my head, until it's not worth the risk anymore. Then we disappear, at 1 a.m. I got up and checked the cloud upload one more time. The file was there, time-stamped, untouched. I texted Harold a single line, "See you at 9." He replied in under a minute, "I'll be in the room before you are." The board announcement was set for 9 the next morning, Marcus's promotion. My reckoning if everything I'd built held together. I looked at my husband sleeping beside me, a recording of his own voice sitting in a cloud folder with his signature all over it. He had no idea the party was already over. I drove to the Kestrel Global Partners Tower at 8:15 the next morning, 40 minutes before Marcus even left the house. The lobby guard waved me through like I was expected. I was. A woman in a gray suit met me by the elevators, badge reading Lois. "Mr. Kingsley said you'd be early," she said. "Follow me." "He tell you why?" I asked. "No," Lois said. "He just said to make sure nobody stopped you before 9. She walked me straight past the executive assistant's desks to a private boardroom on the 40th floor. Glass walls overlooking the whole city. "Wait here," Lois said. "The board convenes at 9 sharp." I set my bag on the table and opened my laptop. My hands were steady. I'd stopped being nervous somewhere around 2 a.m. Marcus walked in at 8:58, tie straight, hair combed, already wearing the smile of a man who'd rehearsed his acceptance speech in the mirror. He froze when he saw me sitting at the table. "Anna, what are you doing here?" "Watching," I said. "You said this was a big day." "This isn't for spouses," he said, glancing at the directors filing in behind him. "You need to leave." "I'm not leaving," I said. "Sit down, Marcus, you're going to want to hear this." Harold Kingsley entered next, buttoning his jacket, not looking at me. Vanessa followed a step behind him in a charcoal suit, clutching a tablet like she was there to present numbers, not confess to stealing them. 12 board members took their seats around the table. Harold remained standing at the head of it. "Before we vote on the CFO appointment," Harold said, "my wife's colleague has something to show the board." Marcus's smile cracked for the first time. "Harold, what is this?" I stood up and connected my phone to the conference system without asking permission. "Sit down," I said, "all of you." I hit play. Marcus's voice filled the room, clear and unmistakable. "Once the promotion clears, we move faster. Bigger transfers, harder to flag." Vanessa's voice answered him. "The Highland Park account's already open. 2.4 million goes out the week after the board vote." 12 directors sat in dead silence, listening to 2 people confess to fraud in their own voices. "Turn that off," Marcus said, standing so fast his chair scraped the floor. "This is doctored, this is nothing." "It's a recording from your own anniversary gala, Harold," I said, nodding at him. "Ask your wife if she remembers the balcony." Vanessa's face had gone white. "This is insane," she said. "You can't just play a private conversation to the board." "I can," I said. "I recorded it, on the 40th floor of your husband's own company, being discussed by his own accountant." I opened a second file and turned my laptop screen toward the room. "This is the Project Zenith folder," I said. $32 million, routed through Aurelian Capital Solutions and Fairmont Ventures. Both shell companies. both signed by Marcus and Vanessa. I clicked through slide after slide, forged invoices, bank statements, wire authorizations with both their names on them. 14 more transfers behind the 6 on this page, I said. I have every one documented. A director at the far end of the table finally spoke. Is this verified? Verify it yourselves, I said. Every account number on that screen is real. Every date matches your own consulting budget records. Another director leaned forward, glasses low on his nose. Who authorized this recording? This could be a legal problem for the company. I recorded a conversation at a private event I was invited to, I said. Your compliance team can review it line by line. It won't change what's on it. She's lying, Marcus said, jabbing a finger at the screen. Every one of those transfers went through proper channels. Ask the finance team. I was the finance team for 6 years before I married you, I said. I know exactly what a proper channel looks like. This isn't one. A third director slid his laptop closed with a sharp click. I've seen enough, he said. Someone get compliance and legal in this room immediately. Marcus turned to Harold, voice cracking. Harold, come on, we've known each other for years. This is my wife being paranoid, blowing something small out of proportion. $32 million isn't small, Marcus, Harold said. His voice didn't rise once. And she's not paranoid, she's thorough. Harold, please, Vanessa said, reaching for his arm. Let's talk about this privately. He stepped back from her hand like it burned. We're done talking privately, he said. We've been done for months. I just didn't have proof until yesterday. Marcus looked at me across the table, and for 1 second I saw the man I married trying to find a way out. Anna, he said, you don't have to do this. You already did this, I said. I'm just the one who finally read the receipts. Harold pressed a button on the phone in front of him. Send them in, he said, boardroom 41. 2 federal agents walked in within 90 seconds. Harold had called them before the meeting even started. You can't be serious, Marcus said, backing toward the window. I built this quarter. I built this company's numbers for 3 years. You built a $32 million hole in it, Harold said. Take him. One agent read Marcus's rights while the other took his arms. He didn't fight them. He just kept looking at me like I owed him an explanation. Vanessa didn't go quietly. You have no idea what you've done, she said, glaring at me as the second agent reached for her. No idea. I have every idea, I said. I read all $32 million of it. They walked both of them out through the glass doors, past 12 board members who sat frozen in their chairs, past the assistants at their desks who stopped typing to watch. Marcus turned back once at the elevator. Anna, he said, Oliver needs his father. Oliver needs a father who isn't in handcuffs, I said, and didn't look away until the doors closed. The boardroom stayed silent for a long moment after they were gone. Compliance and legal spent the next hour going through my files page by page, asking questions, cross-checking account numbers against Kestrel's own records. Every number matched. This is airtight, the compliance director finally said, closing the folder. Whoever built this documentation knew exactly what they were doing. I used to build audit trails for a living, I said. I told the room that twice already. Harold stood at the head of the table again once the lawyers filed out. The CFO position is open again, he said. I have a recommendation. Every director in the room turned to look at me. Mrs. Sheldon has more forensic evidence in one laptop than our entire finance department produced in 3 years, Harold said. I move we appoint her interim CFO, effective immediately. A hand went up, then another. Within a minute, every director in the room had voted yes. I sat down in the same chair Marcus had been standing behind 20 minutes earlier. I need everything you have, Harold said quietly, sliding a legal pad across the table. Every transfer, every date. The prosecutors are going to want all of it by Monday. You'll have it by tonight, I said. He almost smiled. I believe you. Lois appeared in the doorway with a stack of folders and a fresh badge. Building security asked me to get you set up, she said. Corner office on this floor, Marcus's old one, if that's not strange. It's not, I said, it's fitting. I walked into that office an hour later. His nameplate was already gone from the door. Marcus called me that night from a number I didn't recognize, 3 rings before I picked up. They're setting bail tomorrow, he said, voice tight and fast. I need you to tell them it was a misunderstanding. It wasn't, I said. Anna, please, think about Oliver. He needs his father home. Oliver needs a home where his father doesn't steal $32 million, I said, and hung up before he could say another word. Oliver asked about his father over breakfast the next morning. When's Dad coming home? Not for a while, buddy, I said, sliding his cereal across the counter. He made some big mistakes at work. Is it because of that lady at the party? Oliver asked. The one in the white blazer. I set my coffee down carefully. You saw her. She talked to me for a minute, Oliver said. She said Dad was going to be really important soon. I knelt down to his eye level. She was wrong about a lot of things, I said. Finish your cereal, school in 10 minutes. I filed for divorce the next morning. The lawyer's office smelled like fresh coffee and old paper. Marcus's attorney sat across the table, a sharp-suited man named Delgado who opened with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. My client would like to discuss custody arrangements, Delgado said. He remains Oliver's father, regardless of pending charges. Your client is currently under federal indictment for fraud, my lawyer said. That tends to matter in custody hearings. Innocent until proven guilty, Delgado said. There's a recording of him planning to flee the country, I said. That's not exactly a presumption of innocence problem for me. Delgado's smile flickered but held. We'll see what the judge says. We will, I said, and slid a folder across the table. In the meantime, here's a copy of everything the board already handed to the prosecutors. Feel free to review it before you threaten me with a custody fight. He didn't open the folder. He didn't need to. He already knew what was in it. My client would also like his personal belongings returned, Delgado added. Watches, a car, certain effects. Everything in that house was paid for with stolen money, my lawyer said. The prosecutors have already flagged the assets. Take that up with the government. Delgado closed his notepad without writing anything down. This is going to get ugly, he said. It already is, I said. I'm just the one keeping records of it. 3 weeks later, I sat in a federal courthouse waiting room, watching Marcus walk in wearing a suit that used to fit better. He caught my eye across the hallway and mouthed one word, please. I looked away. Inside the courtroom, the prosecutor called me first. Mrs. Sheldon, can you describe how you obtained the recording played for Kestrel's board? I followed my husband to a service balcony during his company's anniversary gala, I said. I recorded a conversation between him and Vanessa Kingsley about ongoing embezzlement. And the financial documents. I found them on his personal laptop, I said. Password was his mistress's birthday plus the word success. He wasn't exactly hiding it well. A ripple of quiet laughter moved through the gallery. The judge didn't smile, but she didn't stop it either. Marcus's own lawyer stood for cross-examination. Isn't it true you accessed your husband's private device without his consent? It's true, I said. It's also true he used our joint accounts and our son's college fund as cover for wire transfers to shell companies. I'm not sure which violation you'd like to focus on. Objection, the prosecutor said, barely hiding a smile of her own. Sustained, the judge said. Move on, counsel. Marcus stood up suddenly from the defense table. Anna, this is insane. You're destroying our family over a mistake. Sit down, Mr. Sheldon, the judge said sharply. $32 million isn't a mistake, I said, still on the stand. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This was a plan. I read every page of it. Marcus's lawyer pulled him back into his seat by the arm. Marcus kept staring at me like I owed him something. I didn't look away this time. I let him see exactly how little that stare cost me now. Vanessa testified 2 days later. I wasn't in the room for it, but Harold told me afterward, sitting across from me at a diner near the courthouse, coffee going cold between us. She tried to say Marcus forced her into it, Harold said. The prosecutor read 6 texts where she suggested the shell company structure herself. How'd that land? I said. About as well as you'd think, Harold said. The judge asked her to stop talking twice in one afternoon. And you, I asked, how are you holding up? He turned his coffee cup a quarter turn, not answering right away. 25 years, he said finally. I keep doing the math on how much of it was real. How are you doing, I asked, besides the math? Some days better than others, Harold said. My sister keeps telling me I should hate you for how this came out. I keep telling her she's got the wrong person. I'm sorry, I said and meant it. Don't be, he said. You're the reason I finally know the truth instead of guessing at it for another 25. What happens to Kestrel now, I asked, with both of them gone? The board wants stability, Harold said. Fast. Which is why I need you focused on the company, not just the courtroom. I can do both, I said. I've been doing both for weeks. He almost laughed. I noticed. My own lawyer called that evening with news. The judge had set a custody hearing for the following month, but recommended supervised visitation only, pending the outcome of the federal case. He's not getting unsupervised time with Oliver while this is active, she said. Not with flight risk on the table. Good, I said. There's one more thing, she added. The prosecutor found 4 more shell accounts this week. The number's climbing past 32 million. How much past? I asked. They're not sure yet, she said. Could be another 4 or 5. They're pulling records from 2 banks now. Send me whatever they release, I said. I'll cross-check it against the folder tonight. You never stop, do you? She said. Not until the number's final, I said. I sat with the phone against my ear, looking out at the city lights through my new office window, the one that used to have Marcus's name on the door. Send me the updated numbers, I said. I want to see exactly how deep it goes. You always do, she said, and I could hear her almost smiling through the phone. I called Lois before I left the office and asked her to schedule a 9 a.m. meeting with the prosecutor's forensic team. Every week? Lois asked. Every week until there's nothing left to find, I said. I hung up and looked at the folder on my desk, thick with everything Marcus had built and everything I was about to finish dismantling. I thought about Marcus's face in the courtroom, that flash of pleas like 18 years of marriage owed him a pass on $32 million. It didn't, it never would. He thought marrying an auditor made him safe. He had no idea it made him the easiest case I'd ever build. The verdict came back on a Tuesday morning, 6 weeks after the trial started. I sat in the second row, Harold beside me, watching the jury foreman stand up with a single sheet of paper. Guilty, the foreman said, on all counts of wire fraud and conspiracy. Marcus's shoulders dropped like something inside him had finally given out. Vanessa didn't move at all, staring straight ahead at the flag behind the judge's bench. Behind me, someone from the Kestrel legal team exhaled loud enough for the whole row to hear. 8 months of forensic work, over in one sentence from the foreman. The judge scheduled sentencing for the following month. Marcus turned in his seat and looked at me one last time before the guards let him out. I hope you're happy, he said. I'm not happy, I said. I'm finished. There's a difference. Outside the courtroom doors, reporters had already gathered, phones raised, shouting questions about Kestrel's fraud case. Mrs. Sheldon, how does it feel to bring down your own husband? One of them called out. It feels like doing my job, I said, and kept walking. Delgado approached me in the hallway afterward, briefcase in hand, none of his earlier confidence left in his face. My client wants to discuss a plea deal on the custody matter, he said. Reduced visitation in exchange for cooperation on restitution. Tell your client the judge already ruled, I said. Full custody, supervised visits only if he's ever released. That's not a negotiation, Delgado said. No, I said. It's a fact. I stopped negotiating with him the night he threatened to take my son over a watch. Delgado studied me for a second, like he was recalculating something. For what it's worth, he said, I've never seen a client's own wife build a cleaner case. For what it's worth, I said, I'd rather have not needed to. Sentencing came a month later. Marcus got 9 years, Vanessa got 7. The judge read both sentences without looking up from her notes. Marcus made a sound low in his throat, somewhere between a laugh and something breaking. 9 years, he said, turning to find me in the gallery. Anna, that's my whole life. You had a whole life, I said. You spent it on shell companies and a watch. Vanessa's sentence landed differently. She stood rigid at the defense table, staring at Harold instead of the judge. Harold, she said. You know, I never meant for it to go this far. He didn't answer her. He didn't even turn his head. 7 years, the judge repeated, and restitution to be determined at a later hearing. The guards took her arm. She kept looking at Harold until the courtroom doors swung shut between them. Harold sat next to me through both hearings, quiet, hands folded, not once looking away from his wife of 25 years as she was led out in handcuffs. "You okay?" I asked him afterward on the courthouse steps. "Getting there," he said. "The divorce finalizes next week." 25 years, gone in one signature. "What are you going to do with the lake house?" I asked, "once the seizure clears?" "Sell it," he said. "I don't want anything with her name still on it." "Fair," I said. "You should take some time off, Anna," he said. "You've been running on courtrooms and coffee for 4 months." "I'll rest when the restitution's fully collected," I said. "Not before." He shook his head, almost smiling. "I believe that too." 25 real years, I said. "Just not the ones you thought you were living." He nodded slowly. "Kestrel's stock is up 11% since the board named you CFO," he said. "Investors like knowing someone's actually watching the books." "Someone always should have been," I said. 3 months later, I sat in the CFO's marble office, the one that used to have Marcus's name on the door. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. "Oliver won first place in his school art contest today. You should have seen his face." I smiled at the screen and typed back, "Tell him I'm framing it for the office." My mother called 2 minutes later instead of texting. "He drew a rocket ship this time," she said. "Said it was you leaving the old house behind." "He said that?" I asked. "His exact words," she said. "Kids notice more than we think, Anna." "I know," I said. "I'm trying to give him a life that doesn't need explaining." "You already are," my mother said. "Come by Sunday. He wants to show you the ribbon himself." "I'll be there," I said. "Wouldn't miss it." There was a knock at my door. Nancy, my new assistant, walked in with a latte and a folder of quarterly numbers. "Board wants your projections by Friday," Nancy said, setting both down on my desk. "They'll have them by Thursday," I said. "They always do," Nancy said, smiling, and closed the door behind her. I picked up the folder and flipped to the restitution summary the prosecutors had sent over that morning. Final number, $36.4 million, every cent of it traced. Kestrel's insurers had already recovered $18 million. The rest was tied up in seized properties, including a lake house in Vanessa's name that neither Marcus nor Harold had ever mentioned to me. I signed off on the recovery plan and set it in my outbox for legal. I looked out over the city from the 40th floor, the same view Marcus used to stand in front of when he thought none of this could touch him. My phone buzzed again. A number I didn't recognize, area code from the federal prison Marcus had been transferred to. I let it ring twice before I picked up. "You have a collect call from an inmate," the automated voice said. "Do you accept the charges?" I sat there for a moment, thumb hovering over the screen. Behind me on my desk sat a framed photo Oliver had drawn that spring, our old house, a stick-figure family of 3 before any of it fell apart. Nancy knocked again, poking her head in. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said, setting the phone face down. "Just a call I don't need to take today." She nodded and left. I sat with my hand still resting on the phone. I pressed decline. Then I opened my phone's photo gallery and scrolled to the last picture I still had of Marcus, taken the morning before that first phone call, smiling like a man who had no idea what was coming for him. I didn't delete it. Not yet. Nancy buzzed my desk one more time before I left for the day. "Building maintenance wants to know if you're still using the rooftop access for Friday's event," she said. "I am," I said. "Tell them I'll be up there at 6. "Anything special?" Nancy asked. "Just closing something out," I said. There was one more thing I needed to see finished first, and it was waiting for me on the rooftop of a building I now owned a piece of. Friday at 6, I took the private elevator to the roof of Kestrel's tower, restitution folder tucked under my arm one last time. Harold was already there, 2 glasses of champagne on the ledge, city lights just starting to come on below us. "Final number came in this morning," he said, handing me a glass. "Full recovery. Every dollar of the $36.4 million, plus interest." "Every dollar," I said. "Took us 11 months. 11 months you didn't have to give," Harold said. "You could have taken a settlement and walked away in week 1. "I don't walk away from unfinished columns," I said. "Never have." He smiled at that, the first real smile I'd seen from him since the airport lounge. "The board wants to name the new compliance division after you," he said. The Sheldon Protocol. Every transfer over $10,000 gets a second signature now. Tell them I'd rather they just use it, I said, not name it. Already voted, Harold said. You lost that one unanimously. Then I'll live with losing, I said. You're allowed to enjoy winning too, Anna, he said. You've earned that as much as the money back. I'll get there, I said, 1/4 at a time. He looked out at the skyline for a moment, quiet. For what it's worth, he said, I don't think either of us ends up here without the other one calling first. You didn't have to answer at that airport, I said. You could have called security instead. I almost did, he said. Glad I didn't. My mother stepped off the elevator, Oliver's hand in hers, a small crowd of Kestrel staff trailing in behind them for the closing reception. Oliver ran straight for me, ribbon from his art contest still pinned crooked to his jacket. Mom, look, they hung my picture in the lobby, he said. The rocket one. I saw it on my way up, I said, kneeling to fix the ribbon. It's the best thing in that whole building. Better than your office, he asked. Especially better than my office, I said, and he grinned like that was the only answer that mattered. Can I stay up here till it gets dark? Oliver asked. Grandma said I could if you said yes. You can stay till it gets dark, I said, not 1 minute past. He ran off toward the ledge railing to look at the lights, and my mother followed a few steps behind him, keeping a careful distance from the edge. My phone buzzed once in my pocket. I stepped a few feet away to check it. A message from the federal prosecutor's office. Marcus Sheldon's appeal was denied this afternoon. Sentence stands at 9 years. I read it twice, waiting to feel something bigger than I did. What I felt was quiet, steady, done. Delgado had called twice that week trying to reopen the custody terms. I let both calls go to voicemail and had my lawyer send one line back. The court already ruled. Stop calling. He hadn't called again. I thought about the collect call I'd declined 3 months earlier, the one from the number with Marcus's prison area code. He'd tried twice more since then. I'd declined both. There was nothing left he could say that I needed to hear. Every question I'd ever had about him was already answered in a folder marked Exhibit 1 through 47. Harold found me a moment later, watching Oliver show his ribbon to half the finance department. You did good work here, Anna, he said. Not just the case. The company. People trust the numbers again. They trust you too, I said. You didn't have to believe a stranger with a laptop at an airport. Best decision I ever made, he said. Besides marrying the wrong person first. We both laughed, quiet and a little tired, the kind of laugh that only comes after a year like the one we'd had. What are you going to do now? I asked him. Once the paperwork's finally closed. Take the summer off, Harold said. Maybe travel somewhere I pick this time, not somewhere she picked for me. That sounds like a good start, I said. You should take one too, he said. A start, I mean, not necessarily the travel part. Ask me again, once the compliance division's running itself, I said. I'll hold you to that, he said, and for once I believed he meant it kindly, not as a threat. He raised his glass. To new beginnings, he said, and I caught the echo of it before he even finished, the same words Vanessa had mouthed at me across a ballroom 11 months earlier. To earned ones, I said, and we drank to that instead. The reception wound down an hour later. Nancy walked the last of the staff to the elevator. My mother took Oliver home for the night, promising him ice cream if he stayed awake long enough to tell her about the rooftop view. I stayed behind, alone, the city spread out gold and glittering below the ledge. I opened my phone one more time and scrolled to the photo I still hadn't deleted, the one from the morning of that first call. Marcus, smiling, hair still damp from the shower, no idea a phone was about to ring. I thought about the boutique on Magnolia Crescent, the $6,000 in cash for a dress the color of everything he'd stolen, the watch that started all of it on a stranger's wrist. I looked at the photo for a long moment, not with anger, not with grief, just with the flat, clear eyes of an auditor closing a final line item. I pressed delete. The photo disappeared, and with it, the last piece of evidence that a marriage had ever needed proving. I stood there a while longer, listening to the city hum 40 floors down, the same city where a phone had buzzed on a rainy morning and ended a marriage before I'd even poured the coffee. Behind me, the elevator doors opened one more time. The night security guard, doing his last rounds before locking up. You good up here, Mrs. Sheldon? He asked. I'm good, I said, and meant every word of it, the way I hadn't meant that word in over a year. I turned back toward the skyline, $36.4 million recovered, a company steadier than it had ever been under Marcus's name, and a son asleep 2 miles away who would never have to wonder what kind of man his mother married. I thought about that phone call at 7:12 a.m., the whisper that started it, the coffee I'd poured instead of screaming. I didn't scream that morning. I refilled his coffee. I didn't cry tonight either. I just hit delete and finally locked the door on all of it. Stories like this one leave a few quiet truths behind. That a whispered phone call can hand you more information than a year of silent suspicion if you're willing to listen instead of react. That composure isn't the same as forgiveness. It can be the sharpest weapon in the room. And that the people who underestimate a quiet, methodical mind almost always hand her the exact evidence she needs. Would you have stayed calm long enough to build a case, or confronted him the moment you picked up that phone? If you enjoyed this story, hit like and subscribe, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.